This is a box of art supplies sent to me by Super Ray Dizzle, all entirely purchased from Dollar Tree. Hey, here we go, we got a letter. Jazza. In this box, I've picked some of Dollar Tree's greatest hits. That's my American accent. The supplies range from things I love and use personally to supplies that are, let's just say, good luck on them. I love that. Now, Ray's got her own batch of Dollar Tree art supplies. I'm gonna check in with her in a couple of days, show her how I went.
Oh my gosh, yes, that is so cool.
We'll see how she went, but make sure to go check out her video, links in the description, and subscribe to Super Ray Dizzle, a cornerstone of the art community here on YouTube. Oh, it's pre-organized and packaged. Notes. In this package, you'll find Dollar Tree's upgraded, more high-end supplies. Sargent Art colored pencil drawing set. 20 classic brush tip markers. Ooh, Tootsie Rolls. Sharpies. Oh, we got some paints. Watercolor tubes. Poster paint. I'm gonna get some high quality painting out of this video, I can tell already. Some brushes. Oh, thank God. What is this? I'm a little concerned. If any of these have an expiry, I'm in trouble. Best Buy 5 months ago. I'm gonna get so sick as a result of this video. I'm a honey bun fan. So now what's left? There's stuff at the bottom of the box, poster board. So with everything laid out in front of me, it's time to swatch. I mean, obviously starting off with those little paint pot things that, yeah, I mean, they're not made for artists. Let's put it bluntly. They're terrible. You can't really make art with these, but I've got them, so let's see what will happen. The watercolor tubes were actually kind of cool in the sense that, yeah, like they're watercolor, but I could work with them quite thickly like acrylic paints. And that's the funny thing. Like if I had dollar store acrylic paint, they'd probably be really sloppy and wet and like really underpigmented. But because these are meant to be watered down, they're actually pretty rich in color and pretty thick. So I tried them both watered down and thick, and I think they're definitely my best bet when it comes to the paint. Then we get to the illustration materials. I had a lot more confidence with what these would work like, and I put these down on some of the poster board that I was sent. And now there's two sides to the poster board. It's sort of a more glossy side and a more matte side. That I didn't expect. I thought it would be the same on both sides, but nope, that meant then that I'm gonna have to swatch on both sides. Starting off with the markers, which went down really well. The glossy side, I was actually pleasantly surprised as to the lack of streakiness with these like super cheap water-based markers. The matte side versus the glossy side was the best, which was in this visual, the bottom out of the two. Both for the markers and the pencils. The pencils really didn't have much to grab onto. There was no tooth in the paper of the glossy side, obviously, whereas on the matte side, it works pretty well. So this teaches me not only how the art materials work, but also the surface I'm gonna wanna work with. With my swatching done, what have I learned? I've learned that I have a lot more confidence in the illustrative materials than the painting materials. So I'm gonna start off with the painting materials because I'm expecting to be underwhelmed. I have 3 little canvases here, one which I already used for the swatches. So I'm gonna use one for my painting and another one to be a bit of a palette. And the colors are a challenge. I only have primary colors, black and white, in these watercolor paints that I wanted to use, even less in poster paints. And while I have more colors in these little tub pot paint things, I don't want to use them. So start off by mixing some more, I guess you could say, mature colors. The primary colors in these watercolor tubes were pretty garish and pretty gross. And if I wanted to paint something, I want some colors that look like the sort of colors painters might use. A phthalo blue or an indigo or more of an Indian yellow or a phthalo green, a couple of browns. So I spent a good period of time starting to mix these together so I could work with those as base and not just working straight with the primaries. And then I set about painting a landscape. Now I wanted an extra special feature in the center of the landscape, which we'll get to later. So to make that work really well, I've got to lay down a nice little foundation to frame it. Trying the Bob Ross wet on wet techniques to paint the sky, it was pretty hard. These aren't oil paints, which mean that they dry as I'm working, and it's really hard to put down subtly, but also layer up in a way that's gonna look nice. There's no blending after it dries, so yeah, it all comes down to timing and being pretty aggressive, but also accurate. It requires a lot more skill to paint with these really cheap paints. Then get stuck into the grass in the foreground, paint down some trees, and after having textured the mountains, it's time to put in the feature of my piece. A beautiful tree framed in the center of my canvas, highlighted by the beautiful rising sun of hope in the distant horizon. And this isn't just any tree. This is a really special tree. This is a dollar tree. People say money doesn't grow on trees, but in this magical world of the dollar tree, money does grow on trees. A dollar grows on this tree. That's it. It's a dollar tree. It's a $1 tree. What did you expect? Look at this. Look at it. I think it's turned out pretty good, to be honest. And it's fun, it's a little tongue-in-cheek. And the funny thing is, it highlights how much more skill you need to make mediocre or bad paint and art materials to work okay. And this is okay. I can do better than this. Please know that about me. But cheap doesn't actually always mean you get a crap result, or that you even need more skill to do it. I mean, it does with art materials, but not with editing programs. Specifically the sponsor of this video, DaVinci Resolve. What a segue. For real guys, you don't even need to visit the Dollar Tree to get DaVinci Resolve because it's free. The link is in the description. It is legitimately the best editing software out there, made by studio professionals for the studio and movie and TV industries, and made free for content creators and hobbyists and professionals alike. Tabletop Time, the Jazza channel, the Jazza Studios vlog, absolutely everything uses DaVinci Resolve. The color grading is so good it feels like sculpting. I love it. It's its own art medium and it's really fun. The edit page has more features than any of its competitors, and it's even got really robust built-in special effects technology in the Fusion tab and audio editing and mixing in the Fairlight tab. But the cut page is where it brings all of that into one simple page. You can take a video from the very beginning to the very end, edit your first vlog, edit your streams, have your student projects, or start your YouTube channel in DaVinci Resolve. Free, link in the description. Thank you Blackmagic for sponsoring this video, and thank you for being proof that even free stuff can be mind-blowingly good. Which begs the question, just because this cheap stuff wasn't amazing and I got an okay result, what about the other cheap stuff? What about the illustration stuff? Let's see how far we can take it. Now right off the bat, there's a bunch of plastic mechanical pencils in the mix, and I love me a mechanical pencil. I way prefer them to just traditional grey lead pencils that you have to sharpen. So I slapped down a sketch. This time, my subject would be a professional artist who's not intimidated by any challenge, even if it entails cheap art supplies. After putting down the sketch and the basic line work, I move on to color, and that's where these markers start to really shine. You can tell I could lay them up a little bit and add some tonal variation. I could even create some reasonably decent blends if I worked fast enough before the water-based ink dried. So that worked out really well. And I think this is probably a good point for me to share some of my top tips for making the most out of cheap art supplies. Because at the end of the day, I'm able to make a pretty good illustration out of these art supplies. It doesn't look like I'm being held back in particular, and I'm sure you'll agree later, the end result is actually really cool. But I've done this before. This is not my first rodeo. I've made art with liquid pen whiteout. I've made a sculpture out of blue tack. And I have done a good share of cheap art supply challenges. So, does that mean I love and constantly use cheap art supplies? No, I don't. Not because I don't think they have any purpose or can't be fun sometimes, but because as a professional, they do inhibit your ability to sort of work much more freely and enjoyably. Working with cheap materials means you have to sort of figure out ways around the limitations of the art materials, which even with these, which are working pretty well, I had to do. So let me talk about some of those workarounds. The first is style. You'll notice my illustration is pretty stylistic. I've got some blocky edges. I worked to create an illustration with some interesting silhouette and expression, but it's also very cartoony. If I was going for realism, I would be in a world of trouble. I have only primary and secondary colors, so a total of like 7 pencils. While I have more markers, there's much less ability to blend and vary them. So going for cartoony meant that I'm not going to hit those limits anywhere near as soon as I would going for something more realistic, and leaning on design elements means that my skills show through more than the limitations of the art material. Next comes down to making good choices. Specifically, in this case, as you can see, I put down markers through the skin tones and the clothes and the character, and then I move on to pencils for the background. This guides the eye to the central character, and by mixing up textures and using the soft and more textured pencils in the background, and really leaning into that, going for a clean look in the foreground of the character, and going for a textured, softer, and more multi-directional blended look in the background, the eye has too much interesting stuff to look at to bother looking for any faults or streakiness or issues with pigment or blends. In short, if you make it interesting and cool enough, the viewer's eye won't notice where the art materials aren't actually up to scratch. And last but not least, you gotta make it pop, and you can use little techniques to do that. And in this case, I used a thick Sharpie to go all around the outside of the silhouette. Just these tiny little techniques that really give an artwork an edge and the ability to stand out from the crowd, strengthen the silhouette and accentuate the style rather than leaning on the art material itself. I am way happier with this one. Look, nothing wrong with my painting, but I feel like there's a lot more right with my illustration here, and it's obviously much more my language of art. And this was a fun challenge. At the end of the day, while I would much prefer spending a whole day with alcohol markers and high quality materials, art is about exploration, it's about taking the pressure off, and sometimes it's about having a bit of a challenge and trying something new. So if you have access to a dollar store, please, by all means, go there with a $5 or a $10 budget and see what you can do, because this was a really fun and interesting exercise. But I wonder what Ray thinks of my artwork. Let's reveal, shall we? Now, I've got 2 artworks.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
I'll start off with my first piece. You ready?
Oh my gosh, yes, that is so cool. Oh my gosh.
This is a world where money does grow on a tree. It's $1 though. That's the thing I'm most proud of. Because you can go to the Dollar Tree and get $1 to spend at Dollar Tree, but no more, no less, just $1.
Yes. Okay, is it my turn?
Yeah, your turn. I can't wait.
Okay.
Give us a look.
I did this around Halloween time.
I know, that's my fault for the delays. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're good, you're good. Okay, so, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see.
Oh, that's so cool. And it looks a part of the original painting.
Oh yeah, I did a lot to it.
Well done. Of the art supplies you sent me, I was most familiar with and comfortable with the sort of illustration supplies. So I just did an illustration of a girl. She's like the art master, even if it's like cheap art supplies.
Wow, goddamn, that's amazing. That blue is absolutely stunning. That paint is really hard to work with. And so I think you did a really good job for the cards that you were dealt. So do you recommend shopping at Dollar Tree?
If you're looking to up your game in art, maybe not. But if you just want to have fun, if you want to get creative, 100%. Like, that was cool. Like, this was fun. There are elements that are like less than easy to work with because they are cheap art supplies, but they're fun.
Definitely, because they're so cheap. I mean, you have a lot of leeway to mess around. If you don't like something, toss it out, get something new, you know?
This was such a fun concept, Ray. Thank you so much. And for sending me all these art supplies and some amazing American cuisine. I'm gonna get so sick as a result of this video.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me on my Dollar Tree adventure.
Thank you for bringing it to me. This was really fun, and Ray did such cool artwork. Go check it out. Obviously, I'm not showing it in this video because she worked really hard on it over on her video, and I can't wait for you guys to go see the process. So please go subscribe to Super A Dizzle. If you like my artworks, hit that like button. That's how I know, and that's how YouTube knows. But you know what I know? That this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.